Hello, and welcome to North End Gallery in Leonardtown, St. Mary's County, Maryland. We are here today to introduce the Invitational Show, a show that the North End holds every February and have done so for about the last 12 or so years. The gallery invites artists from throughout the Southern Maryland area and other artists that have been specifically invited by our member artists here at North End Gallery. North End Gallery, co-op gallery in existence since 1986 here in Leonardtown, has averaged 25 to 30 members throughout the years, and we represent artists from all different media. Everything from painting and sculpture, other ceramics, fiber, wood, just about any medium that an artist can work in or chooses to explore as they go through their artistic creative processes over the years. I'm a North End Gallery member for 22 years, and I work in ceramics, both functional and sculptural ceramic work. So this year at the North End Gallery, our invitational February show, traditionally in February, will also run through March. And while we have physically set the show in the gallery, we will not be hosting an opening as we traditionally do. However, we are also making the show available online and accessible on our website, in addition to the show here in the gallery. Let me introduce you to a piece of pit-fired work by an artist, Chris Corson. He was a former civil rights lawyer and became an artist working primarily in ceramics. And the majority of his work deals with the human condition that he sees in society. This particular piece is hand-built, and once the piece is made and dried, it's bisque-fired and then placed in a pit with combustible materials And it will take anywhere from 12 to 24 to 36 hours on average for that pit firing to take place. And of course, that's what gives the different coloration in this particular piece from where fire and where combustibles touched the piece during the firing. There really is a lot of expression in the types of work that he does, and I think it's a real testament to a artist who can put something like this together. Above me is a piece of fiber and fabric, an applique or a quilting and sewing method of combining different like or dissimilar pieces of fabric together to make a fabric collage. Down from that, we have a traditional oil painting, a very lovely sun-kissed garden bouquet, and again, traditionally done, painted with oils. And adjacent to that is a gourd, and gourds are taken and dried and then cleaned out, and they can be slightly carved, as we have some texture here, and then painted with any number of different designs so that they're very durable and can be very decorative.
Oh, hi, I'm Tim Shire. I'm a local artist. I do painting, sculpture, a little bit of everything, illustration work. And this particular piece, I've been working in metal now for about maybe 15 years, maybe a little longer. And I got the inspiration from this. I used to work at the Calvert Marine Museum. I used to do a lot of illustrations of all kinds of things for them, and I got the idea that I wanted to do this, and then it was a question of figuring out how. It's a steel sculpture, plate, sheet metal, rods, and this piece is specifically made for either an indoor or an outdoor piece. I've got some technology with coatings inside and out on the metal that allow it to be outside. So for anybody that's interested in that. Yes, I hope everybody comes either physically here if they can, or views the videos online and gets a look at all the work. I'm waiting to see the whole show when it's up myself. So yeah, please come around and see all the work and enjoy everything and help the gallery out a lot.
Hi, my name is Nico. I am a silk artist. I do painting on silk using habitized silk and fabric dyes. I learned this technique about 25 years ago. I worked for a silk artist for 8 years, and that's how I learned pretty much everything about silk painting. And my my subject is usually nature, and in some of the pieces I cut out the silk and raise it up to create a three-dimensional bas relief. Thank you so much for inviting me to this show, and I hope people will enjoy the show, and thank you for looking at my work.
Hi, I'm Iris Hall Willie, and I am an artist that has been invited to be in the Invitational program here at the North End Gallery in Leonardtown. I live in St. Mary's County. I've been painting more faithfully, or you could say diligently, since I've been retired. I've taken lessons from local artists, and presently I'm painting with some local artists. I have 3 paintings I'm submitting today for the Invitational. I enjoy painting a lot, and it's become part of my biggest interest. It's been wonderful to meet other local artists. So many of them are very encouraging and inspirational. Well, thank you for looking at my work, and I hope you will come to the Invitational here at North End Gallery.
One of our other guest artists in the show is Rose Beitzel. And Rose works in a variety of different media. She paints as well as works in wood. This happens to be a wood piece, and the piece is actually done with fire. This is a piece of pyrography, which pyrography means burning into wood. So she has actually burned into this wood duck all of the detail that you see on the surface of this particular piece. It's beautifully done, very detailed, and a lot of precision work. I can only guess how many hours it took. Continuing into the blue room, which is the center room in the gallery, we have the additional pieces that have come into the show. This room includes some photography, some paper collage, batiks, basketry, additional ceramics, and some jewelry. So let's take a look at some of these pieces. I'm going to zero in on the necklace that you see right here. And this is by a guest artist by the name of Diana Papazian. And she works primarily in metals and enamel. And this particular piece is a process where she has patinaed the copper shapes that she has combined together in the focal point of this necklace. Very nice, basic, abstract style of work. Behind our necklace, we have a very, very commanding, abstract triangle sculpture. The piece is done in wood. It has additional paint over it. This particular artist is a longtime sculptor, John Schaffner, and he is always pushing that balance element in a piece of sculpture. So we get to walk to the piece and we get to walk through the piece, given the way that he has positioned the angles in this triangular based piece. Here we have a ensemble work, a sculptural work by Alice Yuzi. And as a ceramic artist, she is constantly working on a variety of different ideas and concepts. And we can see in this particular work, she's started with pieces that are vertical, applied to the wall, appear to fall, keep together, but come apart, or they can be placed together, and even appear to have some additional movement as a piece flows off the edge of the table. Stoneware, done traditionally, fired in an oxidation firing in a kiln, and using a variety of different glazes that commingle and interact with one another during the firing.
Hi, I'm Dick Preston. I am a visiting artist here at North End Gallery. I work with wood and have for many years. On my left, I have a candlestick table, and it is designed very pragmatically. As the candle burns down, the ratchet table is raised so that the reader of the Bible or whatever they were reading could keep the light on the book page at a certain angle.
Hi, my name's Eric Jackson. I am an artist. I live here in Leonardtown. I paint batiks of wildlife illustrations, all inspired by fish and other wildlife from the Chesapeake Bay and Mid-Atlantic region. This was the first fish I've caught in 2021, so it was the first painting that I've done in 2021. Caught it up in Charles County, and so it seemed like a fitting first piece of the year. They're made using batik processes, which is wax and dye resist, and so each color is applied separately in a different stage. So you build up layers over time, and then at the end you remove all the wax, and you're left with your image that's permanently embedded in the fibers of the piece. I went to St. Mary's College. I got a degree in art and art history in 2004, and I was a public school teacher for 10 years, and I now paint illustrations full-time as well. Thank you to North End Gallery for having me be a part of the Invitational. Thanks to Leonardtown for being a great arts and entertainment district. It's a great place to come and visit, have a dinner, have a drink, visit the water. There's a big thing for me. Thanks for anybody coming out and looking at the Invitational pieces as well.
Hi, I'm Robin Strayer. I'm an artist in Southern Maryland. I have worked in torched glass, in felted fibers, and more recently, within the last 5 years, I've worked in metalsmithing. I mentioned that I worked in glass, and you'll see in here there's small red glass pieces that are created on the torch. The necklace itself is created with a recycled glass bird, and the sterling silver bezel and chain accents. The background is a wet felting process that is created using soap and water and layering in the different colors of fibers. The interesting thing about this piece is when you wear this piece, you can leave this piece on your wall. So it's like having two pieces of art in one. I really think that the fine art of crafting jewelry should be seen more than just on your neck or ear.
So while we're still here in the blue room of the show, to my left is an abstract painting by artist Karen Chambers, and this particular piece is done in acrylics and on paper, and most abstracts tend to focus on the emotion that the artist feels when they're painting their work. It may be representational, it may be totally untraditional to many people, but it does convey a lot of artistic ability on the part of the artist, and then in turn is interpreted by the viewer, and not everybody sees the same thing. Below that, we have a lovely porcelain vase by Ray Bogle, and this particular type of work, pieces wheel thrown, but the very delicate, soft design on the surface of this piece is done by shellac resist. So the piece is painted with shellac, dried, and then areas of it are wiped away or sponged away to leave that very soft relief. And that's how we get the texture on that particular piece. Here we have a nice long vertical piece by Carol Wade on golden fields. This piece is done with water-soluble oils, something that is fairly new in a workable oil water media. And unlike traditional oils that once they're placed on the canvas or the board, they tend to stay wherever the artist specifically places them. Water soluble means that she can commingle that paint with a liquid media and allow it to move and run throughout the picture. So we get a very different sense of an oil painting, which would remind us of an acrylic or even somewhat of a water media. picture.
Hi, I'm Tammy Vitale. I've been an artist in Southern Maryland and now I'm in Prince George's County for a long time, since 1994 actually this go around, but I've drawn my whole life. In my previous incarnation as an artist, and the way most people know me in the area, is as a sculptor. And they know my work on the boardwalk in North Beach, which was a commission, and also in their morning garden, which was summer, fall, winter, spring commission. But then I moved and downsized because I'm getting old, which happens to all of us, and started this year working on altered works and journals. And there's a lot of collage involved with that, a lot of making paper that's interesting, learning how to put a book together. And in doing that, I decided for this invitational to transfer some of that to canvas, which is what you see here. I started using stencils and jelly plates when I was doing my collages, and you see the results of that mostly in here. This has got a lot of stencils on it that I would use on the jelly plate with some kind of sketchy planting in it, and overlays. When you do jelly plates, you do a lot of different layering, and that's something I never did in my painting before, so that's new for me. And in this one, it's the same thing. You've got some stenciling, a lot of layering. This is collage over here. This is actually drawn on a piece of tissue paper and then put onto the painting. And the flowers around it are from my garden. It's called echo dyeing, and you press flowers between two pieces of paper with a steam iron, and you come up with these really nice pages of flowers, which I cut out and enhanced for this particular painting. And I've been to Invitational before. It seems like I manage every other year. I love North End Invitational. Thank you so much for taking time to look at my work. I hope you stop by and see it. And if you have any questions about it, the gallery would be more than happy to put you in touch with me, and I'd be happy to answer. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Pam Callan, and I'm delighted to be invited back here again to North End Gallery for their invitational. I have been invited several times, and I always enjoy coming back and seeing all of my friends, not to mention all of the wonderful artwork here. I started working in watercolor initially, along about the late 90s, and then I progressed to acrylics. And finally I wound up in oils, and I still do some of the others, but my main love is oils. This little painting that I'm holding right here is one of my favorite places in the world. I actually have a beach cottage there. This is Cove Point Beach, and this is looking toward the cliffs at the beach. And so this will be one of the oils that will be for sale here at North End Gallery during the invitational. And so I look forward to that, seeing you there. I do enjoy teaching as well, and I have taught at the senior centers at College of Southern Maryland and so forth. And I'm still doing the occasional gratis online Zoom call when called for and things like that, but I do enjoy that, and I think I'll be working with the ARC very soon, as a matter of fact. The other painting that you will see that's a large painting here is actually near St. George's Island, is where that one was. These are both plein airs, by the way. Both of them were done, started at least outside. We chase the light as long as we can, and then we go back and finish them up in our studios. So that is the story of the paintings and of me and what I enjoy doing. I'm never happier than when I'm painting, I have to say, and I look forward to seeing my friends and their work here at the North End Gallery.
My name is Jill Smithson. I am honored to be invited back to the North End Gallery's invitational show that this year is running for 2 months, February and March. I'm so excited to be part of the group that has been invited with these talented artists and to have my work recognized, to be invited to hang with them. I am an artist of light and how it dances and plays with subjects. I love trying to share what my heart sees with my hands. And these pieces that I've created are two of the pieces that will be hanging with this show. This is Benjamin Bunny. He is rendered in soft pastels, and I was inspired to paint him because his inquisitive gestures, his sweet countenance just wanted me to engage, and I just had to share his gift. The bee, I was sipping my tea one morning and reading about pollinators and how difficult of a time they're having and how much we depend on them. And I started playing with my tea bag, and I dehydrated the tea, put the bag on the board, and I started painting with acrylics. And I do Zentangle. I'm a Zentangle teacher, and there's Zentangle patterns in here. And I just wanted to honor the pollinators that give us so much. I want to also say I am so grateful for the town of Leonardtown and the Arts Council and Maryland State Arts for all that they make possible to each of us. This town is so vibrant and so phenomenal with all they do to ensure that we all have a beautiful, well-rounded life living here in Southern Maryland.
We're now going to look at a piece of old world type of artwork, batik. And the batik represented here by Mary Beth Ganzel is a style of batik traditionally done in West Africa. This is on a heavy cotton piece of fabric, and through a series of different colored dyes applied by hand, by brush, and then using wax resist, we get the contrast between colors and the background of the particular piece of fabric. In this case, it probably was white, and the white areas that are represented in the image have been waxed before any dye could penetrate the fiber. This artist, when she is finished using all of the different colored dye, she will boil the wax that has been built up with the different color layers and boil it and take that wax out, and she's left with just the fabric. Another artist, jewelry artist, and actually metalsmith artist in our show is Cynthia Rosenblatt, and she works primarily in silver for this particular piece, and each segment, each component in this cluster necklace is individually hand cut, hammered, and then embedded into the bottom layer of a piece, and each one of these segments is then soldered into place, and each segment of segments is soldered together to freeform the image of the center cluster of this necklace, and then attached to the silver wire neck piece to complete her work. Very time-consuming and a very long, intricate process that can take somebody many days to complete.
My name is Mary Joy Sue Joy. I'm a Nantucket basket maker. These are pieces that I've made. These are historically called friendship baskets because they were first made by Jose Reyes on Nantucket Island. He used the traditional style of Nantucket making, which is the basic basket, and then added a woven lid, and he called them friendship baskets. Baskets were first made by sailors on board lightships stationed off the coast of Massachusetts and Nantucket Island. They were actually floating lighthouses with two masts and lights on each mast. And the sailors were stationed there for 8 months, and they began weaving baskets in the tradition of Native American baskets that they had seen at home. They're very functional baskets, they're very sturdy baskets, and they were my inspiration to start weaving. They are made of wood and cane or wooden staves and cane weavers. And this particular basket is cherry with cane staves and cane weavers. And the knobs and this embellishment is made of mammoth ivory obtained from the Inuit in Alaska. And they're hand carved. This piece is made of maple, and it has an ebony overlaid handle, maple handle, an ebony base for the lid and for the base of the basket. And this is hand carved shells made of also of ebony. It takes between 20 and 80 hours to make a basket, particularly a basket like this. It's very labor intensive. I'll open this one up so you can see inside. The hinges are also hand woven, so there's leather that's overlaid with cane, and they're very difficult to make, and there's a lot of trial and error. Weaving a Nantucket basket is the most rewarding experience and the most frustrating because you're working with natural materials. And as I said, working with natural materials is, the staves are not always straight, and you have to soak them and bend them by hand to straighten them out. And there's a lot of sanding that goes on to shape the staves so that they fit into the base just so, because they need to be very closely placed together so that you can get the weaver in, but there's not a lot of space between the stave. And that makes the basket very sturdy. The final process when the basket is complete is to put several layers of spar urethane, and that protects the basket and makes it even sturdier. There's a little anonymous poem that says, "I'm a little Nantucket, strong and stout, don't burn me or lose me, I'll never wear out." And that really is the case with these baskets. I'm really happy to be a part of this show, and I hope you enjoy my work. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Denise Freitberg. I am a potter that lives in Calvert County, and I've been playing with clay for a long time, and I love it. And I started doing sculptural pieces, and I love doing totems where you just create all these separate pieces and stack them up and create a sculpture out of them. And so this one is called Looking to the Sky. Thank you so much for hearing about my work. Please come over to North End Gallery and take a look at it in person. We conclude our tour of our 2021 invitational show, the North End Gallery. The show is up. You can physically visit the gallery throughout the week, and you can also see the show online. It's also on our website, and I hope that this has provided you with additional information about the different types of artwork that's represented in the show, and has encouraged you to hopefully stop by and see the show in person. And as always, we thank you for watching and thank you for your patronage at the gallery.
My name is Perrin Collery, and I'm a tile artist. I live here in Southern Maryland, and this is my studio. I make relief sculpted decorative ceramic tiles. They are used primarily as works of art in people's homes. Sometimes they are installed in kitchens or bathrooms, things like that. So it is functional tile, but it's also very decorative and very beautiful. So I went to college for art, and I ended up doing graduate school for sculpture, and then I had a hard time finding a job for a number of years, but eventually I made my way to a small tile studio where they made a lot of tile that was used in people's homes and also commercial field tile. And I learned a lot there. I worked there for a number of years, and eventually I was ready to start doing my own designs. And at that same time, my parents down here in Southern Maryland had opened our house where I grew up as a gallery. So it was a perfect timing for me to open my business and start making my own handmade tile designs while my parents had a gallery here and my studio was out back. So it was a nice synergy and a great opportunity for me to have some support while I was starting my business and getting to move back home to Southern Maryland. When I went to school and then graduate school, I focused on sculpture and making larger three-dimensional projects. But when I was finally able to get a job that was in an arts field, it was at this ceramic tile studio. And that became a great opportunity for me to incorporate my interest in making sculptural pieces with having a product that people can use in their homes. So sculpture and fine art, I think, can be a little bit distancing from people. It's a little harder for people to access in their own lives. But having a small individual piece of art, a piece of tile that you can use in your home, makes it more accessible. So I started to think of myself more as a craftsperson, working in the craft field of ceramic arts, and less thinking of myself as a fine artist. And for me, the distinction is about accessibility and usability of the pieces that a person makes. So jewelry, woodwork, ceramics, glass, those are things that we can use in our homes, that we can really embrace in our lives. And for me, that gives me more connection to the people who enjoy my work. And that is how I ended up working with ceramic tile. So this is a project that I'm working on for Frederick County. It's a public art project. I have won a grant to make a series of sculptures that will be installed in 5 different towns in Frederick County. And these are the forms that I've built that will hold a mosaic surface on them. So back there on the wall, you can see the designs, the drawn designs for the 5 different sculptures. And the way that these will work will be that they will have a mosaic surface that covers the entire surface of the design. This particular piece will be kinetic, so this particular piece will also have a bike wheel that is functioning and turns. That's a part of the design. And this particular piece is going in a community that has a very big bike riding culture, so I wanted to include the bicycle wheel as part of that design. So as I have continued to develop my career as an artist here in Southern Maryland, I've been fortunate to do a number of public art projects, including, and my first one, was the bench project in Leonardtown. It's called the Naturalists Bench, and it is right outside of Town Hall in Leonardtown. It's a beautiful 3-dimensional, fully functional bench that has a fully mosaic surface. And as I said, that piece was the first public art project that I did receive here in Southern Maryland. I've also done a project in Denton, Maryland, which is a very large mural mosaic. And then this is the 3rd piece, which will be in Frederick. So for my inspiration, when I started making art when I was in grad school, I spent a lot of time thinking about modern art and postmodern art, feminism, gender issues, and my art was really focused on those kinds of things, making large, sort of thought-based sculptures. But as I have transitioned to working with clay and working in this Southern Maryland environment, my focus has really narrowed down to be nature-inspired. So I spend a lot of time walking and looking at the everyday things that are around me all the time. Birds, butterflies, bugs, leaves, nuts and berries, all the little things that we see every day in our lives. Those are the things that primarily inspire me at this point. Many of the pieces that I make in the studio are production pieces. In other words, I make an original and then make a plaster press mold, and from that mold I'm able to press pieces and make multiples. But this project that I'm working on right now is a series of one-of-a-kind pieces that are being incorporated in a sculpture project. And so these pieces were just sculpted by me. There was no mold made, and right now we're going to do some glazing. So with the pieces, I always do the background first, and if you've ever done glazing when you were at school, you might remember that you kind of paint one coat and then a second coat and then a third coat on, but I don't do that. Instead, I do this sort of dribbling, pouring method, and I get that glaze on really thick as possible, which is how I get my bright, juicy colors. And the glazes that I use are all my own formulas, so they are unique to my artwork. Nobody else has these colors. And glazing is a chemical process, so unlike paint, the color that you see now is not the color that the piece will be when it's finished. So this color that we're glazing now ends up this darker blue color, and that happens in the kiln process. So the backgrounds get put on first, nice and thick. And then we'll do a little bit of the detail glazing. So once the glaze dries really quickly, and once it's dry, I can just clean it off of the areas where I don't want it. And then, let's get a good brush. Let's try this brush. And then we're going to go in and do the details. And with this particular color, this yellow, I like to add sort of some more dimension to the color. So I'll put one color on, and then I'll switch to a second color and add that second color, which makes things a little bit more as they are in nature. So a little bit less of a one note and a little bit more of a medley of colors, which I think is more how things are in the real world. And then we just repeat this process. Okay, so here we are down in the basement where I have my kiln and also where I have some space to set stuff out. These are all of the finished pieces that I've been producing, working my way through the process of sculpting them, and then they get fired one time, as you saw upstairs, glazed, and then fired a second time, and then once they come out the second time, this is what they look like. So this is sort of the collection of everything I've made so far for the Frederick project. And these pieces will be mosaicked onto the surface of those forms.
Hi, my name is Sarah Hood. Welcome to my clay studio. I've been working in my studio here in Hollywood, Maryland for the last 30 years. It's amazing how time flies when you're having fun. I started out to be a marine biologist in college, and my very last semester in college, I took a clay class, and I got completely hooked, and I finally figured out why I was born with big hands, because immediately I could create things on the wheel where it took other students like a lot longer to get the even centering or throwing or any of it down. So lucky for me. And then when I graduated from college, I took a job as a marine biologist in Delaware, working for an environmental consulting company, and I found a clay studio, and gosh, I was there 5 nights a week for a couple years until I moved to Maryland. And I had a couple years without clay work while I was working on my master's, and then I stumbled across a used wheel and kiln, and I finished up my master's, and the first thing I did after that was take a summer-long course at the Corcoran, and really focusing on the clay work. So that was an interesting education, and I guess my practice and my work has just evolved over time. Because of my background, I decided at some point, I can't remember when, that I was tired of making little blue flowers and that I was going to go whole fish into my work. So that by that I mean fish handles and scales and tails and a lot of fish urns and fish platters and things like that. And oyster platters is something that I've evolved into doing a lot too in the last few years. So it's really been great. I mean, I usually have a list of what I need to do, whether I have orders or shows that I'm getting ready for, or a gallery show, for example, and I will try to create pieces. I work in a series usually, so I might make 4 to 6 or 8 oyster plates at a time. So I've got some over here that are just made and finished, and they're in the drying phase. So every one I do is a little bit different. This one has got little oysters with little pearls. Like, we know that's not real, but it's just kind of fun because I finished them with a mother of pearl glaze, and it makes them really pretty. So this one has oysters. This one's got starfish. So these start out being a thrown piece, and I carve out the oysters and attach some starfish or oysters or seahorses or whatever I'm using. And, I kind of sculpt this up into a little bowl. So it's a functional piece. You can use them to serve your oysters. You can put them in the oven carefully, but I would recommend putting them into a cold oven and heating it with the oven. So that's kind of a fun project. I just finished making a batch of mugs, like 12 mugs there. Every one is a little bit different too. Kind of get into making some nautilus or starfish forms. I usually have all sorts of things going. I just fired a bisque kiln at the beginning of the week, so I'd like to show you that, to show you what pieces look like when they've been fired once. So these pieces at this point are greenware. They're made and drying. They're not ready to go in the kiln yet. Probably by Monday they'll be ready to be fired the first time. So each piece is fired a minimum of twice. So there's a bisque firing, then a glaze firing, and then if I'm using some gold or mother of pearl, then that's an additional firing. And that's a low temperature, but the glaze firing is up to 2,240 degrees, which makes it a mid-range stoneware. So it's really functional, very durable. Much more durable than flower pots that are fired to 1,800 degrees. Those are really pretty fragile. So my work is all pretty durable. I'd like to show you where I fire my pieces in an electric kiln. I do the 2 firings out there, and that's in this next room. So I'd like to take you over there and show you that. Okay, so these pieces were fired a couple days ago. They've been bisque fired, and these are some of the pieces that I'll be working on glazing in the next couple days. Probably I'll get to them early next week, but it will take me a whole day. So I've been getting into doing these looping handles, and sometimes I'll put some leaves or floral decorations on them. This one I was kind of thinking of a Jack in the Pulpit. So I kind of made it stripy, so I'll try to glaze it so it looks like that. So I've got a bunch of pieces like that in here. So when people talk about throwing pots, this is the part that they mean about throwing. You take your bowl of clay and you throw it onto the wheel head and you smack it down, and I kind of can slap center it a bit. And the clay is pretty soft, so it should be fairly easy to center. So that's the hardest part for people to learn when they're learning how to make pots. Getting the clay centered so that it's all even. It's always harder to do this when people are watching too. always. So it'll get into line, get all the clay particles lined up pretty quickly. Unless the bat's going to vibrate on me. So it's a matter of pushing down. And pulling it up. See, it's pretty lined up now. It's not bumping and wobbling like it was. It's really hard to make a pot if it's not centered properly. I still am feeling a wobble, but I'm just going to go for it. So I recycle all my clay too. I used to just throw bags and bags of clay shards into the gully, and that was pretty wasteful, so I stopped doing that. Now I recycle everything and re-wedge it up, and I get some exercise in my upper body that way, I guess. Okay, so it's pretty centered. I'm going to just open that up. Of course, I wedge this up, recycle this clay, so it probably has lumps and stuff in it. Usually I have a list of things I'm going to do every time I come into the studio. And so some days I'm going to say, okay, I'm going to be working on berry bowls. Other days I'm working on vases. Other days I am working on platters or oyster plates. I mean, there's any number of things I can be doing. So when you're a potter, you try to keep your production stream going so that you have every week. I usually try to have a load of work that will go into the bisque kiln, and then at the end of the week, after it comes out of the bisque kiln, I'll get it glazed. Meanwhile, I'm still producing a whole other load a week that will get fired the following week. So I try to keep up a pretty good production flow when I'm getting ready for shows. Of course, this year all bets are off because all the shows are canceled. So that makes it difficult to know where the market will be this year. Seems like the online website for the gallery is a pretty good thing. So now I'm just pulling up the pot, pulling up the walls. I want to get it as thin as possible, and I'll be making like a bulbous form, like a vase that's kind of really rounded and inflated looking, with the smallest neck as I can manage. It's important to keep the hands really slippery so that they don't get stuck on the clay and throw things off. So the taller and thinner you get, the slower you go. So usually throwing the pot is the fastest part. Then there's the trimming after it's dried for a while, and then finishing and putting on handles if it's going to have handles, and then you have to let it dry. And then go into the bisque firing, the kiln for the first firing. And then that usually takes about a day for it to fire and cool down again. And then it usually takes a full day or more to do glazing for a load. And then a glaze firing takes like 16 hours or so before it's up to temperature, and then it takes like 24 to cool down. So, like really it takes a full week to get a load of stuff done. It's a lot of fun. Throwing is a lot of fun. It just feels really good. So I started with about 3 pounds of clay. I know from experience about how much it takes to do things. Like one of my big platters takes 7 or 8 pounds to get like a 14-inch platter. And then of course everything shrinks. You have to account for the shrinkage. So it looks a little bit bigger now than it'll end up, but shrinkage is 12%. So I have to calculate that if I'm trying to make things fit. They always have to be mindful of that shrinkage. Yeah, I'm just completely smoothing this and doing the final shaping. And I'll just narrow it down. I'm going to narrow the mouth down a little bit more. And then do a little trimming right on the wheel. And then leave it to dry. So I'm trying to get all the water out of the bottom, because that can cause cracking, which you don't ever want in a pot. Maybe I'll do a little, I'm trying to decide which direction. There we go. I'd like to put, sometimes I'd like to put in some make it look a little bit more fluid. I'll go back and define these marks later. Whoop, come back here. One more. I just like the process of making marks on the clay. You know, it makes it interesting. So I'll groove those a little bit deeper when it sets up, and so it'll be even more defined, and I'll give it an interesting foot before cutting it off. There you go. And that's off. Okay. Okay, I'm turning off the gas. Really hot. It's really important to have everything laid out so I can just do it. So the pot is really hot. It's like glowing molten hot on the inside. And it looks kind of blah right now, but let's see what happens. It should have all sorts of flashes of like purple and red and blue. Okay, and then that is just let it rest for a while. Okay, the big reveal. Let's see if it came out. Oh, got some good colors. Wow, it's like super coppery. It's just really, really coppery. I think it got so hot, it didn't vary a lot. Except for on the bottom, the cooler area there has got a little bit more rainbow effect. You can see it's getting a little bit more rainbowy as it's exposed to the air. So this process, when you put a hot pot into a can like this and cover it, is reduction. So you're using up all the oxygen. The pot is using up all the oxygen in there because it flames, and the flames use the oxygen, and that allows the glaze to turn black, and the glazes with copper and other metals to flash metallic color. So pieces come out different. You never really know what to expect with raku. Every piece, even if you fire two identical pieces in the same glaze and the same firing, and put them in two different pots, they're going to look different. You know, just you can tell they're the same family, but they're going to have a little variation. So that's that process, which is fun, interesting. So I'll just let it cool off the rest of the way and clean it up. Thanks for coming by and seeing me at my studio today. I'm glad we had a nice day for you to see both inside and outside operations. You can find my work at the North End Gallery on our website right now, and in our physical store when we reopen. So the northendgallery.com, and also my website, sarahhoodpottery.com. And you can call me or email me with special orders as well. So email is selhood, HOUDE @gmail.com.
Hi, welcome to my studio. I'm Jim Dussard, one of the artists at North End Gallery. This is Moon River Studio. We've built it on our property behind our house here on St. George Island. We bought our house here on St. George Island 26 years ago. The studio, though, is new for me. We just built it about 5-6 years ago, so that I have a place that's dedicated to making art. So our house here is a 1940s cottage that was one bedroom when we bought it. We expanded up into the attic first, And then Isabel came and just about washed the waterside porch off and filled the dining room with mud. So we quickly decided we needed to raise her up a little higher. So we've raised her up. And then on the footprint of the old bathroom, we built this 3-story tower. And it's really, the purpose of it was to have a spot to go and just look at the view. There's no other reason for that room to be up there. But I quickly found that it was a fabulous place to paint. And so I used to paint up there. But, you know, Friday night, Saturday night comes around and it's happy hour time, so I'd have to move all my stuff out of the tower. So that's why the studio was born, so that the tower could stay a family place. So this is the current piece I'm working on. Some found parts and pieces, old clock parts and goat cart wheels and meat grinder handle. And all these things just become part of the story for me. And I've always been a collector of parts and pieces and things, and you know, my house is just this like curio cabinet of odd stuff. But for me, it's the stories, and so I'm like, you know, where did these feet come from? And so as I'm putting these clocks together, the stories come together in my mind, and so that becomes part of the clock. The clocks each get a story, and this one doesn't have a story yet. I haven't quite figured him out yet. But all my other clocks, you'll see, have tales, and a lot of them are sort of childhood memories. You know, when I visited my grandparents' farm, the one that, you know, had some farm pieces on it. My dad delivering groceries, there was one with some a red wagon in it, and so it's just all, you know, bits and pieces from my history that come together that aren't the real history of these pieces. But, you know, I just scour the antique shops and garage sales and eBay now because I'm not going out in public with COVID. But and just find parts and pieces, and then this is where they all come together, and I just start putting them together, pieces side by side, until a thought starts gelling for me. And so this one, I still don't know its story. So what usually happens is I get the clock to where I like it, and then the story's coming together, but if it's just not quite a good enough story, then the clock ends up getting another piece, you know, until I'm happy with the story and the clock, all as one and the same. And so this table is where I start putting clocks that are getting there, that are almost together, and so that I can just keep looking at them every day and think about, you know, what they need. And so this one, I found this beautiful carved head, and for some reason, I don't know why, it seemed like the north wind to me. So it became kind of a weather clock, if you will. So I found these old barometer and thermometers in the shape of ship's wheels. So I carved out the base of the clock so that they can go on here like this. And then what I hope to do is get a light in here and light up these clock gears. The clock is now inserted into the barometer. This one day I want to take out the insides and make it all glow, and I'm kind of thinking some FDR theme, fireside chat, something along those lines. Don't know. Found this beautiful old pigeon cage at the Big Flea this year. This one's going to have a speaker inside, so you can do a Bluetooth radio, and then it'll have a clock coming down from it somehow. I got to do another one with toys. I love these old tin toys, so you know, it's just kind of the colors and the shapes, and then eventually, I don't. Someday they just become a thing, and they become a clock. Fascinated with old tin toys, wheels, carts, candlesticks, old clock cases, anything old and grungy, the more patina, just sort of suggests more of a story for me. Living on St. George, it influences my art. I also like to paint, and so I'm constantly painting marsh scenes, water scenes, cloudscapes, photos that my dog Walker, my husband, takes in the morning before I get up. I use as inspiration for some of my shots. This painting is one that I'm working on right now that is just about a quarter mile down the road in the marsh on the island, and so that greatly influences my subject matter here. I paint exclusively in acrylics. I started painting with oils, and it just frustrated me no end because they take forever to dry, and that's just not me. So this, I found acrylics, and it just fit me to a T. I love painting with acrylics, and I end up with acrylic paint all up and down my arms and all across the front. It doesn't matter because it's just acrylic. Hopefully the best parts of the paint end up on the canvas, but some days they do, some days they end up on the floor. I've always been a collector, and so things just fascinate me, and I just like to repurpose them rather than let them end up in landfills or, you know, out in somebody's garage and nobody ever sees them. They never see the light of day again. This is a quick look at my work. I hope some of it inspired you. If you want to see finished pieces, please stop by North End Gallery's website, or when we're back open again, go by the gallery. We'd love to see you there.